Today on Sugar Spun Run, I'll be showing you how to make dulce de leche sandwich cookies, also known as alfajores. Hey Sugar Spun Bakers, Sam here, and I am really excited to be sharing another carefully tested, well-researched recipe. These alfajores, please feel free to correct my pronunciation because I'm sure I'm butchering it, are actually really simple to make, and we're going to be using the dulce de leche recipe that I just shared to fill them. Now to begin, you're going to need 2 sticks or 1 cup of softened unsalted butter, and we'll add this to a large bowl. Now we'll use an electric mixer to beat the butter until it's light and fluffy and creamy. You can use a stand mixer, but today I am just using my electric hand mixer. There are a couple different methods for making the sandwich portion of these cookies. My method is to make them quite similar to a slightly sweet shortbread cookie. So I'm going to be adding a ½ cup of powdered sugar, 3 tablespoons of light brown sugar. This gives the cookies a little extra richness and depth. And we'll also be adding 1/4 cup or 4 tablespoons of cornstarch. For flavor, we'll add 1½ teaspoons of vanilla extract and just a ½ teaspoon of table salt. Use your mixer again to stir everything together until creamy and well combined. Of course, you'll want to pause and scrape the sides of the bowl just to make sure all of your ingredients are well combined. Now we'll gradually add our flour while we run our mixer on low speed. You're going to need 2 cups of all-purpose flour. This is such a powerful mixer, there basically is no low speed here. This is a pretty stiff dough, but you do want to make sure you mix it until all of that flour is combined. Don't add all of your flour at once or it will take forever to get everything well combined. So I added that flour in about 4 parts, and because my mixer is super intense, we have a nice dusting of flour everywhere, but most of it made it in the bowl. Things are looking a little bit crumbly still. I just want to turn my ingredients, make sure I don't have any pockets of flour that aren't going to get combined. Just work that extra flour into the dough. And then I'll briefly use my electric mixer once more. You don't want to overbeat this dough because then you'll soften the butter too much and the cookies will be prone to spreading, but you do want to make sure that flour is completely incorporated. We're going to be rolling out this dough, but before we do that, I like to chill it in the refrigerator for about 30 minutes just to help keep it from spreading and to make sure it's nice and easy to manage. Now, I divide the dough into 2 even parts and just wrap it tightly in plastic wrap. You don't have to divide it in 2, I just find that it's easier to work with half of the dough at a time, and it chills faster when it's broken in 2. Now, once I've added to the plastic wrap, I am just going to cover it and form it into a pretty flat disc using my hands. Flattening it now just makes it easier to roll when it's done chilling. Now make sure you are working the dough together with your hands so there are no cracks in it. You want it to be nice and smooth, otherwise those cracks are just going to grow when you take your rolling pin to it. All right, now these will chill in our refrigerator for 30 minutes, and meanwhile you can preheat your oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit. So once that dough has chilled, you are going to want to grab yourself a rolling pin, and you're also going to need a round cookie cutter. I recommend using a 2-inch round one or smaller. Now I always recommend lightly flouring your surface before rolling out your dough. This is just going to help keep it from sticking. I'm also going to just lightly dust that dough with some flour too. Sometimes I'll also lightly flour the rolling pin as well. These cookies will be pretty thin. You're going to roll the dough to be about an 1/8 inch thick. My edges are cracking a little bit because I left this dough in there a little bit longer than 30 minutes. If yours is cracking a lot, you'll want to let it sit at room temperature for about 15 or 20 minutes before you roll it out. That's only if you chilled it for longer than 30 minutes. Now use your round cookie cutter to cut out the cookies and make sure to keep your cuts as close together as possible. And we're going to transfer these cookies over to a parchment paper lined baking sheet. They're not really going to spread much, but you do want to give them a little bit of room to breathe. Don't place them closer than within an inch of each other. And for these that didn't come up with the cookie cutter, I'm just going to use a nice thin spatula to gently pry them up and move them over to the baking sheet. You're going to re-roll any of these scraps to make as many cookies as possible, but you always want to try to get as many circles out of each roll as possible. Now we'll take these over to our 375-degree oven where they're going to bake for about 8 to 9 minutes or until the edges are just beginning to turn a light golden brown. You'll want to let these cool for at least 5 to 10 minutes on the baking sheet before transferring to a cooling rack to cool completely. Let your cookies cool completely before filling them. Once they've cooled, we can go ahead and add our dulce de leche. Now you are going to need about 1 to 1.5 teaspoons of dulce de leche per cookie. I like to use my tiniest cookie scoop to portion it onto the bottom of one cookie. And then we'll top it with another cookie. Get like a little bit more filling than that. That was a little closer to a teaspoon. You don't want to overdo it either though, otherwise the dulce de leche is just going to ooze out of the sides. That's more like it. Now some people like to then take the cookie and roll that dulce de leche edge through desiccated coconut. You can do that, or you can dust powdered sugar on top or drizzle these cookies with chocolate, but honestly, I enjoy them just like this. I hope you guys enjoyed this surprisingly simple recipe, and if you try it out, please let me know what you think. I always love hearing from you. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. So good.